Now, before I tell you this story, I want you to sit down because this one did not start with a fight or a parking space or a slap. This one started with a Sunday morning, a white handkerchief, and a man everyone in the neighborhood called Man of God. This is Pastor Emeka Nwosu, 44 years old, third pew from the altar, living in the big white bungalow at the end of Salvation Street, Surulere, Lagos. The house had a well-watered garden, a wooden cross mounted above the gate, and a sign that read, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." Pastor Emeka had been leading the Grace Light Bible Church for 9 years. It was not a mega church, maybe 230 members on a good Sunday, 300 if it was harvest or Christmas. But those 230 people gave their tithes, their testimonies, and their trust to this man without a second thought. He had the voice for it. Deep, steady, with a warmth that made you feel personally selected by the Holy Spirit. He prayed for the sick. He counseled struggling marriages. He visited the bereaved. He knew every member by first name, remembered their children's birthdays, and had been known to dip into the church welfare fund during emergencies, always with receipts, always with transparency, always with that disarming smile. Pastor Emeka is not like the others, people said, and they meant it. And this is his wife, Sister Adaije Nwosu, 38 years old, church coordinator, organizer of the Women's Fellowship, the outreach program, the children's Bible quiz, and the monthly food drive. She was the kind of woman who arrived at church 30 minutes before service to make sure the sound system was working and the ushers had their sashes ironed. She had met Emeka in university. She had believed in him before he had anything. She had fasted and prayed with him through the early years, the small rented hall, the folding chairs, the leaking roof during Harmattan, the months when the offering barely covered the generator fuel. She had stood beside them for every single step. She wore her hair simply. She laughed quietly. She was not the type to draw attention to herself in a crowd. In fact, many new members didn't even realize she was the pastor's wife until someone told them. But Sister Adaije had something about her. Something still. Something watchful. The kind of stillness that belongs to a woman who has seen something she cannot yet explain. The church members adored Pastor Emeka. There was Brother Festus, the chairman of the ushering committee, a retired customs officer who wore the same brown agbada every Sunday and nodded so vigorously during sermons that his glasses slid down his nose every 3 minutes. There was Mama Chisom, who ran the Women's Fellowship with an iron grip wrapped in cotton wool, always arriving with a flask of pepper soup that appeared mysteriously during every church meeting. There was young Brother Chidubem, fresh from NYSC, who had given his life to Christ specifically because of one of Pastor Emeka's sermons and now volunteered for every committee like a man trying to pay an outstanding debt to God. And there was Sister Ngozi, 27, new to the branch, transferred from the Ikeja chapter about 8 months ago. She was the assistant Sunday school teacher and the new coordinator for the young adults ministry. She had large eyes, a soft voice, and a habit of lingering after every service to speak with Pastor Emeka about ministry matters. Nobody thought anything of it. Why would they? The first thread pulled loose on a Wednesday evening. Sister Adaze was in the kitchen making ofe onugbu when Emeka's second phone, the one he said was strictly for ministry coordination, buzzed on the kitchen counter. He had left it there by mistake while he stepped outside to speak with Brother Festus about the upcoming retreat. Adaze did not pick it up. She was not a suspicious woman. She had never gone through her husband's phone in 19 years of marriage. The thought had never even formed itself properly in her mind. She believed in trust the way she believed in the sun rising. Not because she checked for it, but because it simply always had. But the phone buzzed again, and then again. And then a preview notification appeared on the screen, just long enough for Adazi to read 3 words before it disappeared. Miss you too. She stood very still, spatula in hand, Ofeonubo bubbling. She put the spatula down on the counter. She looked at the phone. She picked up her own phone and went to the sink, where she stood with her back to the door, staring at the running water for a long time. She did not say anything to Adaze that night.
For 3 weeks, Sister Adaze did something she had never done before in her marriage. She paid attention. Not in a frantic way, not in a way that could be seen or felt. She watched with the same quiet, efficient attention she brought to everything. The way she kept the church's financial records, the way she coordinated the outreach roster, the way she noticed which church member had missed 2 consecutive Sundays and made sure someone called them. She noticed that Emeka now kept his second phone face down. She noticed that ministry meetings on Tuesday evenings had started ending much later than they used to, sometimes past 9, sometimes close to 10. She noticed that when she walked into a room unexpectedly, his typing stopped. She noticed that he had started complimenting her differently, more deliberately, with the practiced warmth of a man trying to demonstrate something rather than simply feel it. And she noticed on one Thursday morning when she collected a shirt from his wardrobe to send to the dry cleaner, a faint scent that was not his cologne and not hers. She placed the shirt on the bed. She sat down beside it. She looked at the wooden cross on their bedroom wall. She pressed both hands flat against her thighs and breathed. That evening, she called her elder sister in Enugu. "Nena," she said, "I think I need to talk." Her sister was the one who found it first. She was more fluent in social media, had a teenage daughter who had taught her to navigate things properly. She searched. She found Sister Ngozi's Instagram public account. Nothing obviously incriminating. Just photos of church events, scriptures, a few outings with friends. But her sister noticed something. Ngozi had 3 times in the past 2 months posted stories from a restaurant in Victoria Island, a particular restaurant, at night. And 3 times Emeka had told Adaeze he was at recipes or late ministry planning sessions. They cross-referenced the dates. They matched. Adaeze asked her sister to send her the screenshots. She saved them in a folder on her phone. She labeled recipes. The Sunday after, Sister Adaje sat in the front row during service. She watched her husband preach. He preached on integrity. He quoted Proverbs 11:3. The integrity of the upright guides them, but the crookedness of the treacherous destroys them. His voice was clear and warm and full. Members nodded. Brother Festus's glasses slid. Mama Chisom murmured amen, like punctuation. Sister Adaji sat with her Bible open in her lap and her hands folded neatly on top of it, and she said amen in all the right places, and she smiled at exactly the right moments. And she thought, I am not going to confront him. Not yet. Because she understood something important. If she confronted him now, alone in their bedroom, here is what would happen. He would deny it. He would be calm. He would speak gently and patiently. He was, after all, trained in the art of managing difficult conversations. He would make her feel like the problem was her perception, her insecurity, her spiritual imbalance. She had watched him counsel enough troubled marriages to know exactly how the script ran. She was not going to give him that script. Her sister flew down from Enugu on a Thursday. She brought Adaize's cousin Priscilla, who was a lawyer and had the face of someone who had never lost a negotiation in her life. The 3 of them sat in Adaize's kitchen with the door locked and talked for 4 hours. Priscilla laid it out plainly. Evidence first, confrontation second, action third. In that order, Adaize, in that exact order. What kind of evidence?
Enough that when you speak, no one can say you were just a jealous wife. Enough that the elders of that church cannot look at you and dismiss this. Adaize nodded slowly. And what do I do in the meantime? You be exactly who you have always been, Priscilla said. You smile, you coordinate, you attend every meeting, you iron his shirt, you pray loudly, you give absolutely nothing away. She paused. Can you do that? Adaize thought about 19 years. She thought about the leaking roof during Harmattan. She thought about the folding chairs and the generator fuel and the woman who had believed in him before he had anything. Yes, she said quietly, I can do that.
3 weeks later, Priscilla had what she needed. Phone records obtained legitimately through a law firm connection, showing repeated late-night calls between Emeka's second line and Ngozi's registered number. Time-stamped, consistent, dating back 14 months. 14 months! Adaize sat with that number for a long time. 14 months. She had organized 3 outreach programs in 14 months. She had raised funds for a new church bus. She had personally visited 11 sick members in their homes. She had prayed beside her husband every night, her knee touching his knee on the bedroom floor. 14 months. She did not cry. She had already done that, alone, quietly in the bathroom with the tap running. That part was done. Now she was in a different place. Somewhere still. Somewhere purposeful. The Grace Light Bible Church had a board of elders, 5 men, 3 women. They met once a month in the church vestry. Sister Adaize had attended exactly none of those meetings in 9 years. That was Emeka's domain. She requested a meeting, formally, in writing. She sent a letter, printed and signed, to the board chairman, Deacon Haruna, a 71-year-old retired judge who was known for his absolutely zero tolerance for what he called any manner of nonsense. The letter said only that she had information of urgent importance regarding the integrity of the church's leadership and that she was requesting the board's audience privately before any public action was taken. Deacon Haruna called her within 2 hours. She came with her sister. She came with Priscilla. She sat across from the 8 elders in the vestry with her Bible on the table in front of her and her hands folded on top of it. The same posture she had held during the integrity sermon, and she spoke for 45 minutes. She did not raise her voice once. She presented the phone records. She presented the match dates. She presented 2 additional pieces of evidence Priscilla had quietly gathered: a receipt from the Victoria Island restaurant and a testimony from a church van driver who had, on one occasion, driven Pastor Emeka to a location that was not a ministry engagement and had been asked not to mention it. The vestry was silent for a long time when she finished. Deacon Haruna looked at the documents. He looked at Sister Adaize. He looked at the documents again. Then he said, in the quiet voice of a man who had presided over many difficult things, Sister Adaize, we are sorry. And we thank you for bringing this to us before going anywhere else. She nodded once. Will you give us time to verify and address this properly? Deacon, she said calmly, I have waited 14 months already without knowing. A few more days will not break me. He came to the board meeting, expecting to discuss the building expansion budget. He left knowing that everyone in that room knew. The account from those who were present said he went very quiet. Not the warmth quiet he used in counseling sessions. A different kind. The quiet of a man whose script had been removed from his hands. He asked to know who had spoken. Deacon Haruna told him it was not relevant. What was relevant, the deacon said carefully, was whether the evidence could be refuted. It could not be refuted. The plan had been to address the congregation quietly through official channels with a statement. But Lagos is Lagos, and church compounds like residential compounds have no soundproofing. By the following Sunday morning,
The story was moving. Not the full story. Fragments, whispers, versions. I heard Pastor Emeka and Sister Ngozi, and they say Madam found out, and Deacon Haruna called an emergency meeting. Brother Festus sat in his third pew, his brown agbada perfectly pressed, his glasses very still. For the first time anyone could remember, Mama Chisom had no pepper soup that morning. Young brother Chidubem sat with his hands clasped between his knees, staring at the pulpit, which was occupied by the assistant pastor and no one else. Sister Ngozi did not come to church that Sunday or the Sunday after. And Pastor Emeka, for the first time in 9 years, was not in his pulpit.
By that Tuesday, someone had posted about it on a Lagos Christian community Facebook group. They did not name the church directly, but they named enough. The comments came quickly. This is why I don't go to church anymore. Men of God doing anyhow again. We should pray for the family. What about the wife? Somebody talk about the wife. And then someone posted a different comment. Someone who was a member of Grace Light Bible Church. It said simply, the wife is the one who handled this. She went to the elders first. She had proof. She did it quietly and with dignity. Her name is Adaize Nwosu, and this woman deserves her flowers. That comment was shared 67 times before midnight. She had not planned to say anything publicly. That was not who she was. She had done what she needed to do. She had protected the congregation she loved from a leadership that had breached their trust. She had done it properly, with evidence and process, not spectacle. But then her sister called her and said, Adaize, people are saying things. Some people are saying you must have done something to push him. Some people are saying you should have kept it in the house. You need to say something. She sat with it for a day. Then her cousin Priscilla said, Adaize, you spent 19 years building that man. You are not going to let strangers reduce this to a narrative about a bitter wife. Speak, just once, clearly. So she did. She did not go on TikTok. She did not do a live stream. She was not that kind of woman. She typed a statement, long form, written the way she wrote everything, carefully, without flourish. She posted it on the church's official notice board, copied to every board elder, and sent a screenshot to 2 trusted journalists in the faith and society space who had reached out. My name is Adaize Nwosu. I have served this church for 9 years as a wife, as a sister, and as a worker. When I discovered what I discovered, I did not run to social media. I did not go to the newspapers. I gathered my evidence patiently. I prayed, I sought counsel, and I brought it to the authority of this church's board of elders. That is what integrity looks like. Not performance, not vengeance, process. I am not a bitter woman. I am a tired woman who loved her marriage, protected her congregation, and chose to do the right thing even when the wrong thing would have been easier. I am asking for privacy for myself and my children. Thank you. The statement was shared over 4,000 times. In the comments, the question people kept asking was, who is this woman? What does she do? Where can we find her? Sister Adaize had for 9 years run a small event coordination business on the side, largely invisible because she was so identified with the church that people forgot she had a life of her own. She planned church events, she decorated halls, she organized programs. She had a gift for logistics, for beauty, for making things run exactly on time. A young woman who ran a popular Christian lifestyle blog in Lagos found her business page dormant, barely maintained, 200 followers. She wrote about her. She shared the page. By the end of that week, Adaize had 12,000 followers. Inquiries were filling her inbox. Event coordinators, women's conference organizers, church programs. People didn't just want her services. They wanted to give their money to a woman who had stood with quiet strength in one of the hardest moments a person can face. Her calendar, which had been half empty for 2 years, filled up in 11 days. The Board of Elders placed Pastor Emeka on indefinite suspension. He issued a public statement acknowledging failures in his personal conduct and requesting time and space for personal restoration. Sister Ngozi quietly left the church. The assistant pastor stepped into the role on an interim basis. The Grace Light Bible Church did not collapse. It grieved. It had hard conversations. It asked difficult questions about accountability, about the systems that allow authority to go unchecked, about the quiet women standing beside visible men who are never quite seen. And slowly, not dramatically, not with fireworks, but the way a wound begins to close, it healed. Now, let me ask you something. What made this woman remarkable was not that she was wronged. Many people are wronged. What made her remarkable was what she did with it. She did not act from rage. She did not act from humiliation. She gathered herself. She gathered her evidence. She followed the process. She protected people beyond herself. A congregation of 230 people who had placed their trust in a structure she helped build. And when the moment came for her to speak, she spoke with the same quiet competence she had brought to 19 years of marriage and 9 years of ministry. There is a kind of strength that does not shout. There is a kind of dignity that does not perform. And there is a kind of woman who, when the ground beneath her feet gives way, does not fall with it. She simply stands, adjusts her footing, and keeps going. Sister Adaeze Nwosu was that kind of woman. And the world, when it finally saw her, could not look away. The moral lesson is this: trust is sacred in marriage, in ministry, in community. When someone in a position of authority betrays that trust, it is not weakness to act on it. It is courage. And when you act, do it with evidence, with process, and with integrity. Because the way you respond to betrayal reveals more about your character than the betrayal itself ever could. Positions of power are not shields from accountability. They are higher standards of responsibility. Thank you for listening and watching Tales by Bledsoe. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share for more amazing stories.